Hello, and welcome to the Idja Games channel. This is Josiah. I'm going to have an opinion about things. Warning, this video contains minor spoilers. Spoilers about the amount of dungeons in Breath of the Wild, the amount of shrines, the amount of side quests. So if you don't want to hear about that, click away. Or if you're like me and don't really believe those are really spoilers, then stick around. So, first, let's talk about what the title of this video is going to be called. Let's talk about the side quests. There are, in Breath of the Wild, and this kind of sort of concerns me, but it depends, who knows. There are 72, 73, or 74 side quests, 70-ish side quests in the game to be revealed by the game's director Anuma. What do I think about this? 72 is a healthy amount. I would have hoped there would be more, but with the amount of secrets that are going to be in the overworld, I'm going to have plenty to do, I think. The side quests, I'm not sure if it'll matter necessarily how many side quests there are, but I don't know, just something to think about. The question is, what is the nature of these side quests going to be? Are they going to be like stories, like we saw in Majora's Mask? Are they going to have stories, or are they going to just be simple fetch quests? The one side quest that we have seen from some gameplay, the only side quest that we've seen so far, has been the one involving the white horse with relations to the royal family. Apparently it's really rare, it's somewhere out in the field, and you have to catch it. And if you catch it, then you bring it back to the guy, bring it back to some stables, and he'll give you something cool. I don't know what he's going to give you. The guy who did the gameplay didn't actually do the side quest. So I thought about that, and I was like, okay, a white horse. When has a white horse ever been in a Zelda game? And I really thought about it, and I couldn't think of one instance. The only horse that I could think of was Epona, and Epona's not a white horse, clearly. So I was like, man. And so I the other day I bought Ocarina of Time for the 3DS, which, by the way, if you want to play Ocarina of Time, I would say that's probably the best way to play Ocarina of Time, simply because it looks better, it's portable, like there's just so much involved with that game that makes it so good. They made things easier. It's awesome. I'm having a really good time with it. But the first scene shown in Ocarina of Time, at least I believe it's close to the first one, is the scene where Impa and Zelda are escaping the castle from Ganondorf. And if you notice, the horse that they're riding on is a pure white horse, which leads me to believe that the horse that you're trying to find in that side quest in Breath of the Wild is going to be that horse. If not the same horse, then some descendant of that horse is going to be present in that game, which is pretty awesome. It's a pretty awesome callback to Ocarina, which, what does that mean for the timeline? I think that means even more that it's directly after Ocarina in one of the timelines, because if there is a horse that still exists from Ocarina in that game, like, horses don't live that long, right? I mean, that horse has got to be somehow connected to Ocarina of Time. So that's one thing. That's one cool thing. Another thing, the dungeons, the amount of dungeons. I don't think it's confirmed yet, quite confirmed, but I've been hearing that the amount of major dungeons, like big dungeons, is 4, which a lot of people seem to be angry about or frustrated about. Some people maybe wanted to see more dungeons. I don't quite understand that, because, I mean, you have, like, there are 2 Zelda games that people absolutely love that only have 4 dungeons. That them being Majora's Mask and Wind Waker. If Majora's Mask may have less. I think Majora's Mask might have 3. I think Majora's Mask has 4. I haven't played through all of Majora's Mask because I don't like Majora's Mask. I'll talk about that later, about Majora's Mask. But Wind Waker has 4 dungeons. The reason why they didn't have very many dungeons is because those games focused on different elements of Zelda. Majora's Mask focused on side quests, focused on more story things, and it focused on its 3-day cycle mechanic. Whereas Wind Waker focused more on overworld exploration with sailing and going to different islands and so on. So I'm not entirely sure. I think it'll probably 4 dungeons is no problem for me, especially if the dungeons are huge and really difficult. And it's not the dungeons that make the game. I heard also about the dungeons that they're not themed, like stylistically themed. Which means there's not going to be like a fire temple or a water temple or anything like that, like in past Zelda games. And a lot of people are angry about that too. I don't quite understand that. I mean, it's kind of like, oh, like a party needs a theme. Well, no. I mean, not to be fun. I mean, parties can be fun without themes. I mean, a theme doesn't make something fun. It may have a part to play in it being fun, but I mean, overall, you can have a fun dungeon or an interesting dungeon without a theme. I mean, Zelda 2, I don't like Zelda 2, but Zelda 2 had just fine dungeons, and they weren't themed. Same thing with Zelda 1, didn't have any themed dungeons. So I'm not that. If the dungeons are interesting and the puzzles are fun, then it doesn't matter what theme it has. But if you're still upset about there only being 4 dungeons, surprise, surprise, there are going to be 120 shrines in that game. That's a lot of shrines. And if you've seen any gameplay footage of the shrines, they're kind of like mini dungeons with maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 or 2, 3, 4 puzzles within them, and then you get to the end. I've heard that the shrines are going to vary in size. Some shrines are going to be bigger, some shrines are going to be smaller, some shrines are going to be harder, some shrines are going to be really easy. So honestly, that's going to make up for only 7 dungeons for me. If there are 120 mini dungeons in that game, I'm going to get my dungeon fix. I just am. So 120 shrines, gonna be no problem for me. And it says there's going to be 900 Korok puzzles. If anybody has seen any gameplay for those Korok puzzles, it's simply going in an area and finding a Korok, like a hidden Korok someplace. And 900. That's 100 away from 1,000. That's a lot of content, especially when you consider the world is just there's so many secrets, so many places to bomb. There's just so many places or things to find in that game. I don't think I'm going to have any problem with the sheer amount of content in the game. Some people might. Some people might be like, only 4 dungeons? Man, that's not enough. I mean, if you like Wind Waker, I don't think you have an excuse to not like Breath of the Wild, because Wind Waker was exploration-based. Breath of the Wild is going to be exploration-based. If you're worried about there only being 4 dungeons and you love Wind Waker, you're gonna like you're gonna like Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, and especially when you consider that game's so huge that once you finally get into a dungeon, there's going to be so much tension built up because the game's so huge, you don't quite know where the dungeons are, and then once you find those dungeons, you'll be able to once you find the dungeons, you'll be able to see them, and it'll just be way bigger than you could possibly imagine. You're like, oh man, and all that anticipation is going to build up, and I think that's going to make those dungeons more fun. The only thing I'm worried about is the amount of side quests. I think it's fair to compare Breath of the Wild with Skyrim. My experience with Skyrim, I loved the amount of side quests that were in that game. Albeit there wasn't as much exploration as far as getting really interesting and unique items in Skyrim without some kind of side quest involved with it. So Breath of the Wild is going to just have a lot of hidden collectibles, places, and stuff like that, which is going to provide more content. But if there's only 72, 73, 74 side quests, and side quests are just going to be the things that you're going to do, if you run out of side quests, or if the game doesn't recycle side quests, the game, I don't think it's going to be as timeless as Skyrim, or it has a chance not to be as timeless as Skyrim. Because I played Skyrim for years and years and years, and I just kept doing side quests that I hadn't done before. So, those are my opinions. Those are my opinions on the sheer content of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. What are your thoughts? Do you think that 4 dungeons is too little? Do you think that the amount of side quests is a bit lacking? Post in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. Thank you very much. See ya.